apart. So the first person I'm going to call to the front, or online as it were, Gareth or Garth, can you come to the front, please? Garth, are you there? If you can unmute, Garth.
Hi, sorry. We just had load shedding kicking in.
That's fine. We're all living with that. It's fine. You want us to project your presentation, or are you going to load it?
I was told that you would project it from your side, but if you share, then I'm happy to do it.
No. We're going to do that. Just again, the rules: 10 minutes. Just stick to the main elements. We're going to take a series of presentations. Yours is the first one. We'll allow you 10 minutes. Then we'll allow the other presenters to come after you. And then at the end of that, we'll then open up for online as well as physical interactions. Is that fine?
Sure.
Well, and then if you can just indicate to the local coordinators here when you want to go to the next slide. So we're going to project that now, and then you can just tell us which slide. You should see it on your screen now.
Nope.
Just tell us when you're able to.
Okay, I can see it now. Please proceed to the first slide. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll get straight into the presentation and meet the 10-minute deadline. Please, that's the next slide. So, colleagues, just to introduce myself, I'm the lead in the project management office and the presidency and operation Vulindlela, but Delrad is the lead department assigned in the division of responsibilities across government departments. I think we need to secure much more urgent implementation since the 29 cabinet decision. Sometimes government just gets caught up in administration, and we've got to set key performance indicators, which are about how much investment there is, how many factories were set up, how much hectareage is being used for cannabis growth, and so on and so forth. The baseline documents are the Cannabis Master Plan and the Cannabis Bakisa report, which I hope you've all seen. And again, we're adopting a value chain approach upstream of the farm gate, where South Africa has significant capabilities in equipment, services, seed systems, and so on and so forth. Although, of course, they are very often not inclusive. And then inside the farm gate, the primary production, the capabilities, the agricultural extension work that's required, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, downstream of all the domestic to all the domestic and export demand pathways. This is the responsibility mainly of the DTIC, the technology intensive manufacturing value addition and processing. Oops, sorry for the spelling glitch. And then all the demand pathways, medical, registered medicine demand is very small. As far as I know, only 5 medicines have been registered globally. And so we're talking about so-called complementary medicines, human and animal ingestion products, cosmetics, multiple industrial uses, and I list some of those, textiles, construction, so on and so forth. Currently, as has been said, the illicit market represents the single largest demand in South Africa and globally. And perhaps we should also add that, of course, some countries have enabled regulated adult use markets, and in others, personal and private use markets, the latest being Germany in the last few weeks. And then the importance of regulatory reform is an enormous principle, and I'll speak to that shortly. The development of a country competitive strategy. We can't compete across all areas of the value chain, and at some point we're going to have to decide where we wish to compete, and then an appropriate financing framework. And I'm happy to see Kathy in the room, and she'll speak to that a little bit later. And then, of course, the importance of demand side factors. Up to now, government has intervened on the supply side, hemp permits, cannabis licenses, and I think there's a significant problem and even a potential market failure because small-scale legacy farmers have been excluded.
You still there, Garth? We've lost you. Garth, are you there? Maybe you've muted yourself. We have Garth's cell number. We can just communicate via WhatsApp or something. Yeah. The Blow will take care of that. So this is unfortunately what you have to deal with when you have online as well. Let's see if we can resolve it in the next minute or two. Otherwise, then we'll go to our next online presenter just to get all the online issues resolved. Wait another minute or two. And Dr. Blau, the moment you hear something, just let us know. Is he still online?
He's still online and he's unmuted, so
yeah, there probably is a connectivity issue on that side. We're just trying to, while we wait for that, let me just ask.
Just gone out, he's just coming in back in.
Right. Maybe, okay.
Sorry, colleagues.
No, it's fine. You can proceed.
Wi-Fi is down, and so I've connected via MTN. And next slide, please. So, colleagues, some context issues. Intragovernmental policy coherence, program alignment, urgent execution has been difficult to achieve, especially in the sector because you're talking about actually 9 departments, leave aside provinces and municipal governments, and that's an enormously difficult thing. We need to work closely with provincial governments and local authorities who are at the coalface, and we started doing that with big catalytic projects, investment and inclusion of legacy farmers. And the catalytic projects need to create a learning by doing foundation. We're working with Okasamba Harip. I'm obviously working with Dr. Blow, but we need to be thinking about curated partnerships which ensure that Black legacy farmers are included in the value chains. We need proof of concept of demand aggregation, product to market, and then, of course, investment in the processing value-added parts of the value chain. Market development is crucial, as I said. If we're not careful, outside of cannabis for an illicit market and the constrained export of cannabis through the SAPRA licensing process, we will end up with stranded assets and oversupply, and this requires investment and technology transfer in the midstream sector and manufacturing value-added sector. Secondly, we've got to look at global demand. What are the global corporates that constitute the largest source of demand? What are they doing? What are their global strategies? They are trending to vertical integration, and we need a structured engagement with both domestic demand opportunities, the big companies in cosmetics, in biofuel, and so on and so forth, and at the same time being careful to guard against exclusion when big corporates are in the room, so to speak. I think what's underspoken about is that cannabis and industrial hemp have significant carbon sink sequestration capabilities with potential opportunities to access climate financing, carbon credit trade, and investment. And biochar is just one of those examples. And we have to recognize that sector development is certainly not a walk in the park. It's extremely difficult, and we've got very significant country competitor challenges who enjoy the same latitude, climate, and land competitive advantages. And I'm mentioning two of them, Brazil and Argentina. Next slide, please. So, colleagues, what have we done so far in regulatory reform? It was about 3 weeks ago, the SAPS issued national orders regarding arrests and prosecutions for private use. Yesterday, the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee signed off on the Private Purposes Bill. It's obviously still got to be adopted by the National Assembly, and this will give effect to private cultivation and possession and use. It directs the government to develop overarching commercial legislation. It will ensure that hemp cultivation and processing, unless it is used for medical purposes, will not be subject to existing legal constraints. So this is a very important step in the right direction. The PACISA agreed on a set of foundational policy principles, which will lay the basis for the overarching legislation to create a regulated market, to leverage significant economic benefits. And we have to say, secure commercial and economic benefits, and deal with the issues of societal harms from cannabis. I suspect that's probably a 2 or 3 year process, but the preparation of the overarching legislation has begun. The legal team is working on a regulatory sandbox approach, and I think we have to focus in that on legacy farmers and a potential for a learning by doing approach to address the crisis of rural poverty. As you know, the hemp permits have already been amended, and the cannabis license conditions I don't think will include major amendments, but certainly once the Cannabis for Private Purposes Bill is passed, hemp becomes an agricultural crop, and the conditions on the hemp licenses will be significantly amended. We are busy working with DOH in relation to the Foodstuffs, Cosmetics and Disinfectants Act, the Traditional Health Practitioners Act, and the Indigenous Knowledge Act to secure appropriate amendments. Next slide, please. So, an interministerial committee has been set up and has met, and a secretariat has been established, which is basically the weekly implementation vehicle for time-bound, measurable, and assigned activities and compliance management. A steering committee has been set up, which includes stakeholders other than government. It has met once. I think we need to strengthen that, especially in relation to close collaboration with provincial governments. Next slide, please. Sorry, skip that slide. It's just a pictorial presentation of the existing institutional arrangements. Through the DTRC, we appointed a company called Blueprint. They're doing the value chain research for all the demand pathways. We'll have a phase 1 economic research country competitive strategy as a basis for structured engagement with domestic and industrial champions and for investment promotion and technology transfer. As I've said, the market development. Kathy from DNA Analytics has been doing the financing framework. It is very doubtful that we'll be able to make major calls on a constrained national fiscus, and so that work includes blended financing and financing from the private sector. Optimally, by the end of the year, we'll draw together the 3 streams of work: the regulatory reform, the economic research evidence base, and the financing framework, to have an overarching strategy and detailed implementation plan. I've been speaking in many of the provinces, and I think at some point we will take that to all the provinces, and the critical question would be to secure an integrated approach which takes into account the provincial strategies. I've run out of time, so I'm just going to rush through this. We've got to secure much more urgent implementation. We've got to get out of an administrative approach, deal with the red tape efficiencies that are required. Inclusivity is absolutely important. We've got to focus on end user demand and the midstream sectors. We've got to fix the seed ecosystem, which is problematic. We've got to put in place significant agricultural extension and training. And we should add, perhaps, for those of you who've read Wandile Sihlobo's very useful book published recently on agriculture, put in place the appropriate infrastructure. And then we've got to deal with a host of other issues: the non-tariff barriers, the standards and conformity assessment system. Last slide, please. And so these are the constraints. If it takes too long to deal with the overarching legislation, that's going to be a problem. And sorry, there's a little bit of duplication, something crept in there. So I'm going to stop there. I think this slide duplicates the previous slide. Thank you very much. A couple of minutes over the 10 minutes. I beg your pardon. Thank you.
No, it's fine. So Garth, just for in the interest of everyone, just give us your 3 or 4 main takeaways of your presentation.
3 or 4 main takeaways of the presentation. 1, we must stop being in an administrative treadmill. We've got to get key performance indicators in place which are deal with bricks and mortar investments. How much investment is taking place? How much hemp production is taking place? What are the aggregator models in place? What investment is happening in the midstream sectors? Secondly, the biggest takeaway is, how do we learn by doing in catalytic projects which have to be in the provinces to include legacy farmers? What are the demand pathways for legacy farmers in circumstances where trade in cannabis remains illegal? And then thirdly, we've got to recognize that we're not playing alone in this game. We have to work together with the private sector in devil in the detail programs and projects to secure investment, the technology transfer, and the demand. Otherwise, we're going to be doing what we've done since 2014, an endless treadmill of talk.